Hello everyone, welcome to the session. I'm sure you all are enjoying the sessions and gaining a lot of insights. Now next in line we have a panel discussion, and the topic for the panel discussion is weaving the innovation fabric. In current scenario when Atmanirbhar Bharat and Made in India are getting momentum, coming up with innovative ideas have become much more important. So that you all will also agree with to that. So in this session, we will hear from our panelists on why the innovation is important. How can we bring the innovative work culture in our workplaces? And also what are the roadblocks and about many more other things. So I request everyone to listen to the discussion carefully, as based on this discussion, we will be asking a couple of questions in the end, and winners will be getting exciting prizes. So those will be announced later. So also if you have any questions, please feel free to put that in the chat section. Please use the stage chat for this session, which is on the right hand side of your screen. And as you know, this will be a moderated discussion and will be moderated by Misha Joshi. So let me introduce Misha. Misha is Senior Director with Professional Services Business Unit VMware. She is a seasoned business leader with 18 years of experience and has worked across sales, services, management, customer services, IT, and business transformational programs. Prior to VMware, she has worked with Infosys, IBM, Syntel, Fujitsu, and Vodafone India Limited. She strongly believes in leveraging the diversity of thought, gender, and demography at the workplace. In addition to her day-to-day job, she champions multiple initiatives in diversity and inclusion within organizations. So welcome, Misha. Over to you now.
Thank you, Neelam. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Great. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that you've heard since morning. I am Misha Joshi, and I'm very excited for this panel discussion that we have now on weaving the innovation fabric. So actually picking up from where Ram left off, if you pick up the Vuja Day philosophy that he just spoke about, I think that's a perfect way to enter our panel discussion, where we are going to be discussing how do we continue to be inspired to innovate every day and how to do it in the best way possible. So with that, I'd like to welcome our esteemed panelists today. The first one is Sreelakshmi Gollapudi. She's an Associate Technical Director with Samsung Semiconductors India Research Limited, and works on 2G, 3G architecture, design, 5G modems. She herself has 6 patents and has published 3 papers. Welcome, Sreelakshmi.
Thank you, Misha.
The second person we have on the panel is Sairam Veeraswamy. He's a Senior Director for Innovation Programs at VMware India. He is one technical role model who works with a lot of our teams to make sure that they are innovating every day, and himself has over 37 patents issued by the US office. So welcome, Sairam.
Thank you, Misha. Good morning, everyone.
The next person we have is Madhurima Agarwal. She's Director of Engineering Programs at NetApp. She's been an entrepreneur herself and heads the NetApp Accelerator program for startups. She also leads a lot of site-level initiatives, has a past of investment banking, so something very interesting we'll get to hear from her, and recently won a Zinov Award for being a woman leader. The next one is Professor Dr. Arkaprava Basu from the Indian Institute of Sciences. He's worked with AMD R&D organization in the past and has interests in operating systems and computer architecture. So welcome, Madhurima and Orka.
Thank you.
Thank you, Misha.
All right, so with that, we'll head straight into a little bit of a different introduction here. I'm going to request the panelists to talk to us about, introducing themselves and also telling us about what innovation means to them and how it has inspired their own life and work. So let's start with you, Madhurima.
Thanks, Misha. Thanks, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk about innovation, a topic very close to my heart. So as, Misha already shared with you, I head the NetApp startup program called NetApp Accelerator. And while this program has been in existence for 3 years, I do want to share here that, just recently, we announced a new program for women entrepreneurs called NetApp Accelerator. And being a woman entrepreneur, I faced a lot of challenges. So hopefully through this, we'll be able to alleviate some of these challenges for the women entrepreneurs today. It's a very interesting question. What innovation means to me. I think innovation means a lot of things, right? There's no standard definition, but to me, it means it's a freedom to think and act in a manner which allows you to fulfill, your ambitions, do things in a different way. A lot of poems have been written about it. Take the road less traveled. Those kind of things, looking at things in a different manner, thinking about it from the beginning in a different manner. And I at some point, if I get it some time, I will share my story about how I have inculcated innovation in my life. But I'll pause here for now. Thanks.
Thank you, Madhurima. Orca, can we hear from you?
Sure. As Misha, introduced me, I'm a faculty at Indian Institute of Science in the Computer Science and Automation Department. So before, joining ISC, I was at AIMD Research as a researcher there, and even before that, I did my PhD from University of Wisconsin at Madison. So I work in the area of operating system and computer architecture, and innovation is my day job. And the way I actually think about innovation is something that advances state of art. And to be very specific, whenever I think about innovation, it should have two elements. One that is more obvious, that it has to have something novel. And the second is usefulness. For example, just to give you an example, I work in, say, computer architecture, creating a new processor. I can come up with a new processor that actually ignores every fifth instruction that it is saying to you. I'm sure it will be very novel because nobody has tried it, but it will be useless. So the usefulness part is very important. And of course, obvious thing is that it should do something new that progresses the state of art. And why I chose a life where innovation is my day job is because it's never boring. It's always new. Even every day, you have to learn something new to keep up with pace so that you understand what is the state of art. It actually moves too fast. So that new every day is what keeps me going. And that's where innovation is close to my heart. So that's what I expect.
Thank you, Orca. Sreelakshmi, how about you?
Yeah, I'm Sreelakshmi, working in Samsung Semiconductors India, Bangalore. I'm working in wireless communications for almost 19 years plus. Even my post-graduation is in digital communications from IIT Kanpur. So my world is around communications. Coming to the innovation topic, actually knowingly or unknowingly, we all are innovators, inventors. Being a mother, I have to try different ideas to get my child to the table, to have his food. Every day we have to come up with some alternate menus or something like that. And coming to the work, I want to give the real life example. Prior to lockdown, I was at my parents' place for 1 week holiday, but lockdown announced I can't come back. And the place is a remote village where we don't have broadband connectivity. So all I have is only 4G enabled phone. We have to use that as a hotspot and continue with work from home. The thing is, all this wouldn't have been possible if we go back few years back. In 2001, when I started my career, all we have is a second generation phone with only voice call possible. But over the years, third generation came, fourth generation came because of inventions from many people across the world in different areas. It could be in processors, or it could be in communication technology, or it could be in semiconductors. That enabled us to have connectivity everywhere right now. So innovation is, for me, it's like a tool which helps us to live better, and it is must to sustain and survive further. I want to stop here. Looking forward for exciting discussion.
Thank you, Sreelakshmi. Sairam, how about you?
Sure. So as Misha introduced, I have three 33 years of experience in the industry, spanning across wide spectrum of domains and also wide spectrum of functional roles. And around 15 years ago, I sort of switched to individual contributor role because I'm really, really passionate about driving innovation at the forefront. And having said that, innovation means four things to me. It's all about morphing the challenges into opportunities. That's what is the key mantra that's driving us at VMware. Every challenge that we see in our way, I think we want to turn that into opportunity. While doing so, we want to make sure that we manage the second aspect of this innovation, which is all about change. Because as we really turn this into opportunity, obviously, you need to make sure that you adapt to the change, and also you bring your stakeholders to really accept the change and embrace the change. And the third important thing that I see is which is also core. It's all about solving. Being able to solve the real customer problem to really enable him to succeed. At the same time, make sure that that we could really use it to contribute, use it to make the bottom line and top line impact. Because as Professor Arkaprava really alluded to, I think innovation has to have a purpose, and this should be one of the purpose. It's all about making an impact, right? And the fourth one is all about people. For me, innovation is all about people, and we will dive into this perspective as we really go through the session. And when it comes to my personal and professional, inspirational, innovation inspiring me, I think innovation is my lifeline. Right? I'm so fortunate that throughout my career I had an opportunity to really drive innovation and lead from the front line. I started my career as a hardware engineer and had I was fortunate to have a great opportunity to really drive the hard technology at the time. Telco used to be hard way back in '87 with CDOT and other things happening in India. And here I'm really fortunate to have a great leadership that really trusts me with enabling the community to really innovate. On the personal front, go ahead.
Go ahead, Sairam.
No, on the personal front, I'm a minimalist. I strongly believe in that, and we are using creative ideas to really being trying to eliminate things that are not needed. Believe me or not, we don't have a cable TV at home for the last 25 years.
Wow. You must have some really innovative ideas on how to entertain yourself. So on that note, I'll dive into a few more questions for our panelists. So let's start with you, Sairam. Let's continue with you, in fact. So since you lead the innovation programs at VMware, we'd like to understand how you are building an innovation culture across a larger team, how you inspiring more intrapreneurs, and because this is Women Who Code, we can't avoid talking about women. So probably cover that aspect as well, please.
Absolutely, and a very interesting question and also a challenging question, Misha. But glad that you asked. As you said, large cross-functional team has its own DNA spectrum, and women adds more shades and colors to that. That's really the fun part. At VMware, innovation is all about people, as I said. So ideas are important, but without people, it doesn't make sense to have the ideas float around. So inspiring them to innovate indeed is a big challenge, and as we need to really bridge wide gaps that exist in a setup particularly unique to India. So we need to consciously profile this and create a right set of platform, tools, and training, and innovation challenges to simulate the right brain more and more, while the managers at the day job, must be driving their, these people's brain really, really crazy. So you got to strike a right balance. So contrary to conventional myth, we strongly believe that anyone and everyone could and should innovate. While there are no silver bullets really, to this particular problem, but we have been fortunate and lucky to really, have a platform that really helps us to be, helps us to catalyze the innovation or culture of innovation. I want to list on 5 important points shortly. One is that we are fortunate to have a great global leadership and very supportive local leadership that really drives innovation at core. And they want us to innovate on everything, and every opportunity that they get to really engage with us, they really reiterate that. The second aspect is that we have we have sort of, I've been putting in efforts last 4 years to design a cohesive platform that will allow them to really innovate more effectively. So the platform really is so wide and it covers everything that's needed to really, drive the portfolio innovation in terms of product innovation, to like ecosystem innovation, to like, social innovation. Because, everybody may not be interested and tuned and passionate about like innovating in technology. Somebody may want to use the technology for good, like by driving or using technology to really make an impact in the society. So we are basically like put together to make sure that we address everybody's need when it comes to driving innovation. And the third important thing is that, that we continually draw external stimuli. As Ram alluded to, we want to make sure that, that our community gets an outside-in perspective all the time in order for them to really make an insightful, informed decision about on what they innovate on and how they innovate on. So that helps us immensely to catalyze this. And the fourth important point is that we strongly focus on creating entrepreneurial leaders through systematic training programs. Because VMware has a strong strategy in investing in people, we really continually leverage it to really catalyze our entrepreneurial leaders' growth. Finally, we encourage them to fail often and fail fast. So this being said, I think this is not a silver bullet. We are continually like improving on that, but we have found this is to be a lot more effective in getting better yield. And coming back to women entrepreneurs, and I strongly believe that women are born entrepreneurs. And I can give you many like facts and supporting this this observation. And look at the like cuisines that we have created so far for generation together, phenomenal. And that itself is great proof that they can innovate more and effectively. But that comes through practice. I mean, I don't need to preach the choir, but they are master planners, and I believe that they are born ambidextrous thinker. Right? And we strongly believe in VMware gender equality and continually practice through many of our inclusion programs and platforms, as you might have witnessed. WWCode is an example. And we have encoded this inclusion so perfectly that for us, it's not about numbers, it's about value and integrating that as a seamless part of our strategy. So I strongly believe that in not really inspire them more and more, I think continual learning is super important. So we provide opportunity to do so. And install more confidence. So we create opportunity to make sure that that they can demonstrate and try out things to really improve the confidence so that they don't fear of failure. And then finally, we create an ecosystem wherein we make sure that women leaders and women entrepreneurs don't ask for permission, but try out, prove, while doing so maintain transparency and succeed. Misha?
Thank you, Sairam. It's very, very, very insightful. Okay, so on that note, Madhurima, you've been an entrepreneur yourself. You've done investment banking. Now you are creating this whole platform, the Accelerate Her program at NetApp. How are you using innovation to give back to the ecosystem, your knowledge, experience, how you bringing the outside in perspective?
Great question, Misha. You're asking me to divulge all my trade secrets, but I will. See, as I said, right, I mean, innovation, and we've heard from the folks here and otherwise also, innovation changes the constant and the way the human spirit, the resilience we display. Innovation comes in everyday lives, right? Every aspect of our lives. I will share, I'll take a minute to just share quickly my story because that will build some context for you.
Yep.
So I did my first startup when I was in undergrad, right? And this was in a small town. And those of you who are old enough to be there in the previous century will realize that internet was not all pervasive. In fact, internet was just coming into India at that point of time when I started, this startup, which was writing code for, local businesses, for the hospitals, for the schools, building those hospital management systems. Today we take it for granted. I mean, that's child's play. But back then when I started, right, the thinking itself that, what do you do to give back to the society? So I was doing my undergrad in computer science, learning things, and I had some time on hand, right? So that thinking that, as you talked about how we are sharing it with the ecosystem, how we are developing, that was there from the beginning. Encouraged by my parents, I decided to, teach people computers. I actually taught a 70-year-old man about how to use computers. He wanted to do it. And I taught like a, grade 1 kid about how to use computers. So those things just showed how much interest there is in people about learning new things, right? And then adapting it, using it in their daily lives. That moved forward, 2 years did that business, and then I realized that, how much can I grow this? And somebody said you need to go to an IIM to, become a executive leader, right? And okay, let me try that. And with God's grace, I passed in my first attempt, went to IIM Ahmedabad 2 years. Now that really opened my eyes about, you met people from various fields who were doing so many different things, and the key was in different manners, right? So everybody was excelling at sports, but their stories were different. How they achieved that pinnacle of glory was different, right? And that is where, I started thinking about different things, different people, but all achieving a common goal of being successful. Then investment banking happened because that was something new for me, and I wanted to learn, how does this world of finance operate? How do the money, which is the key driver of economies, how does that happen, right? And then came back to the startup world, and I decided to use my corporate experience and my startup experience to act as a bridge between these two worlds. And that, I can tell you, is one of the most innovative jobs that one can have. And Sairam can, share, as has shared some of the things, what it takes to drive innovation, right? Now, with an outside in view, it becomes all the more difficult, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to take an entity, an outside entity, which has its own objectives, which has its own criteria for success, its own ways of working, and you take your own organization, which is, very different in size and everything, and how do you bring them together? So that is where, the senior leadership sponsorship comes in. Their ability, their enthusiasm to sponsor the program, to create that change in mindset, that no, it's not just internal innovation we should look at, but we should look at what others are doing, take a landscape view, choose to work with the best. So that, I think, is, very key to ensuring that there is successful partnership or open innovation that happens. So just to, summarize it: the mindset, the sponsorship, the ability to understand both the worlds, and then making sure that leadership is always supportive, giving you whatever it needs, giving that mind space, giving that budget, and then bringing it together. Again, as we've talked earlier, making it purposeful, that it should serve a certain purpose, do innovation not just for the sake of doing it, but how it translates into business objectives, how it aligns with the business goals. So those are, the top things that one needs to look in mind to keep an open mind and ensure that there is outside in innovation happening. So it's not just at a point of time; it's always a journey that you traverse, right, and learn and evolve. Does that answer your question, Misha?
Yes, Madhurima. We'll get into some examples shortly because we've started getting some questions from the team as well. But before we jump into those, I'd like to also understand a perspective from Sreelakshmi, right? You continue to write more papers and get more patents for yourself. How do you continue to keep this hunger? Like you said, right? You had to, you were stuck in your village, you come back, you have your daily life, you have your kids you take care of. How do you build that hunger and rigor to continue to do that?
Okay. Actually, the thing is, like, nature of work itself is demanding in innovation. In my case, I'm working since second generation mobile phone technology. Now we are in fifth generation mobile phone technology. So over the years, I was working in different roles. My innovation journey started when I was working in a research project. NEC was working for LTE specifications. As part of that, we have to come up with the new ideas which will fare better than the existing technologies. That's how my innovation journey started. That was there for a year and a half. Then later I moved to software development roles. Even in software development role, there is a chance to innovate. You will be doing architecture and you will be coming across some open points, and you need to think how it can be resolved with the optimized solution. So those things can be patented as well. That's how it was in my earlier companies. Now I'm working in Samsung, which is in the top 2 patent file companies in India. And yesterday we got in news it is a top in last year in Genova Awards for patent filing. And
Wow.
in Samsung we have actually lot of encouragement for innovation. We do have once in 3 months events like Genesis come up with the new ideas and make something and show it, so it can be taken for a prototyping and a bigger project, pilot projects. And especially for women, Samsung sponsors IEEE conferences like WinTechon and all, where we have a platform to showcase our work. And usually, even if you are working in development tools, we can form as a study groups or some collaboration. With collaboration, we can brainstorm and come up with ideas. So that's how it is going. It's nature of work plus the companies I'm working at are also providing opportunities. It's about picking up opportunities and proceeding further.
Okay. Yeah, that's really good. I think grabbing the opportunities that are available, org support will always be there, but how do you take that and continue to build the hunger for it? Thank you, Sreelakshmi. I will go to Orca now to understand from an innovation from a research perspective, right? How do you partner with organizations and help them drive that hunger?
Okay, so I think there are two parts to this question. Like, one is the relation between research and the innovation, and how you actually partner with other organizations. So the way I view it is that research is the process to continually create innovation. And next, immediately the question comes up, like, what I mean by doing research. Now, to put it in a perspective, the way I think is that, most of our time or most of our education that has happened from kindergarten to even say bachelor's degree or master's degree, anything has been mostly about being a consumer of knowledge. You are told somewhere that something actually happens, and then in the exam, what you do is that you reproduce that you have been taught in some way, in some form or the other. No, the role reverses when you are talking about research. You have to become producer of knowledge. And when you try to become producer of knowledge, that's when you actually innovate, because you're trying to advance the state of art. So that's how I think like research and innovation is related. And now going back to the question about how, my lab, like I cannot talk about the other labs, all other labs operate differently. Everybody has a different way of working. How my lab actually interacts with other organizations, particularly I'm talking about industrial labs, we take it very seriously, and that is, it's needed. The reason I'm saying needed is that, part of the innovation, I said that one key part is to do something that is useful, that has impact, as Sairam was mentioning, right? And if you look in the industry knows the best where the most usefulness is. So just to give you an example, like how closely we actually work with industrial lab. Even today morning, I was working with my friends and collaborator in VMware research at Bay Area to revise a paper that we have submitted together. My students go there and do internship. And thanks to Sairam, VMware research funds our research as well. And this is not only with the VMware research. We have similar, relationship like funding, students fellowship from Microsoft Research. We have a very close relation with the Intel labs where we meet weekly, and with the VMware research also we have meetings every week. Again, like funding, student collaboration, and then with Intel labs as well. And you would also find it is interesting to know that I also consult one day a week for AMD. So you can see Intel and AMD. There's one great thing about being in the academia, where you can create courtship with possible rival as long as it is on a different projects. So key thread to all of this is the desire to innovate. Because for me, if a project is useless if I cannot actually publish it at a top tier venue. similar goal for somebody in VMware research or Intel labs. Not only that, but they are also probably interested in patents that might actually come out of that. But at the end of the day, it's the innovation that binds us together. So, and look to collaborate with industrial organization, particularly also I have a background on that, is because I need to understand what are the problems that are useful. I do not want to create ivory towers. So that's the reason, and that's why it is so important.
Right. Thank you so much, Orca. I think it's such a pleasure to have this diverse panel here. I would not have ever gone to Indian Institute of Sciences, but at least I can listen to a professor from there. So on that note, I want to take a few audience questions and not lose out on the opportunity to interact with them as well. Orca, there's one that I think is very close to what you're working on. Which is, what is your advice to students who are finishing their college degrees and looking to join the industry in the middle of a crisis? I will couple that with one more question that I wanted to ask personally, is what are the skills you think they should develop to, maybe the softer part of it, the soft skills, to be able to do more innovation?
Okay, for the students, and I feel for it, like it's a hard time. But one of the things that you should ensure, like during any part of your career, is that do not ever, stop learning something new. If you ensure that, you will have value in whatever you do, your skills will actually have value. So that's only I can actually say. Like, don't stop learning. It's a hard time. But it's also like, take it as an opportunity, as, Sairam mentioned in another context. You also had a question about what are the skill sets, particularly the soft skill. Before going to the soft skill, one skill that I'll actually say that as something that is actually prerequisite to do effective innovation is to, this, internal urge to know something, to figure out something. If you stop and wait for somebody to tell you what is important or how things actually work, that won't work. You have to go and have the urge to figure it out yourself. And other thing is that learn a lot. Like human brain, or read a lot. Human brain is particularly good at connecting two things, right? To be able to connect two things, you need to have multiple sources of information. How do you get that? You have to learn, read a lot, and keep yourself updated. And coming back to the soft skill, the skill of communication is particularly important, be it verbal or written, because if you cannot communicate your ideas well, it's worth nothing. Whether you are writing a paper, writing a patent, or trying to convince your team members that the idea you have is great and you should actually pursue it. That's one part of it. That's probably more obvious. There's the other part of trying to communicate. Trying to communicate, whether it is written or verbal, forces you to think deeply. It happens a lot of time that I want to we graduate classes and we don't have book. We actually teach about some paper that got published. We thought that we understood this particular. I understood this particular paper in a topic, and I wanted to teach that. And then teaching is communication, all about communication. And when you try to communicate, you figure maybe a lot of intricacies I have not actually got full hold of it. When you try to write, for example, if you have an idea, write it out, like why it is useful and what is the state of art that you are actually advancing. What is the novelty? When you try to write, it will force you to think, and you will figure out that sometimes that what looked obvious may not be that so obvious. So that's the way I think that the communication in general as a soft skill is very, very important to have.
Thanks, Orca. That was
Misha,
really useful.
Misha, if I may
Yes, go
add
ahead.
something to this, students, it's about students. So, I do want to tell all the students, right, who are feeling that, they are graduating in this unfortunate times. I think you are having an experience which people actually get over the years, right? So, very lucky. You are getting a chance to prove your skills in a crisis-driven situation and getting a lot of learning early on. So if you apply all the things that Arka just shared, have faith. You will emerge a stronger leader in the long race. Of this. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. So take it in that spirit. I just wanted to add that. Thanks.
Thank you so
Great
much,
thought.
Madhurima. That helps. So there are a bunch of other questions which I'm going to take the liberty of clubbing into 2 or 3 more questions. The first one that I want to pick up is in various formats. We have our audience asking us, what was your turning point in life that made you innovate? What is how do you keep that motivation up? Can you share a specific innovation strategy that you found compelling? The way I'd like us to answer this is, now I want to pick up some real examples, right? So maybe Sreelakshmi and Sairam, I'll turn to you for some examples. If you can pick up an example of an innovation that you picked up, and maybe if you failed first and how you picked up from there, or if you succeeded, what learnings you picked up. Help us with a real example as to how that turned into a turning point, and what was your strategy to be able to innovate in that situation. So Sreelakshmi first.
Okay. Okay. So it is not easy to be successful. The main thing is there will be many questions. Whatever we have come up with, whether it really belongs to the business, to the company which you are working for. If it is in different field, maybe it can't be patented in the company, but it can be taken as patent in outside world if it is really good. And next thing is, the people will keep checking review committee, patent review committee, whether it is obvious, are there any existing solutions in that area already, and what is the greatness of your idea compared to the existing solutions. Does it really add a lot of value? Does it provide many features? So this is another aspect which it will be checked. And third thing is, idea may be very innovative, but to find out whether the idea is infringed or not, you need a tool. If it is easily identified that the idea got infringed, then it is easy to get the approval in the companies. Like infringement is obviously seen, so it is easy to get approval. But people will be working in different domains, and people working in hardware, or people working in lower layers of the protocol stack, coming up with such ideas will be difficult. So I did face some blockers, like my initial ideas were not continued further, but I worked on it based on the feedback. What is the thing I have to do so value will be added to it, and that's how after some time, maybe some 2-3 failures I have seen, after that my idea started getting accepted. But it's not like continuous process. We still have to face the same problem. This is one example I want to give. And the other thing is, when we are working in development roles, we think maybe difficult to innovate. That is not true. I have seen my colleagues who are working in testing team, even they come up with very good ideas. It's not like everything will be done and dusted once development is done. There will be many gray areas which will be identified as part of testing. So they have seen the problems and they came up with solutions which earned good money for the companies. So my thinking on this is, any role you are in, you can still try for the innovation. I hope I answered. Does it
Yeah,
make sense?
yeah, it does, Sreelakshmi. I think what I picked up from that is that you don't have to be in a particular role. You don't have to wait for a turning point as such. You don't have to have a specific strategy. You just need to keep moving. You have a good idea, just pick it up and run with it. So, Sairam, would you want to add to it, or anyone else actually for that matter?
Sure, absolutely. I think I want to talk about a couple of things. So it was when I was VMC as a distribution engineer, I was tasked. I was a chief architect for transforming their infrastructure, not only to really drive the next gen product, but also to really bring two big ships together, two big organizations together. It's all about organizational convergence and infrastructure convergence, to be precise. So it was a Herculean task given the challenges around people, culture, and the dominant nature of these two platforms. But I was able to successfully do it. And the strategy and the key reflection of that is basically that I put people first, then technology next. So traditionally, with conventional wisdom, people put technology first, and with like in super technology, the day to solve organizational problem. But what I did is that I looked at the organization undercurrent, tried to solve the organizational convergence, then the technology was the easy part. So the point that I want to drive is and also like reflect on is, driving innovation is just not about technology. It's all about people. Many times we live in a myth that, that, hey, individual contributors who are basically at the forefront of driving technology don't have to deal with people. Unfortunately, that's not true. I think it's other way around. Managers can really lead with their like process book or whatever red book that they have to really make things happen to enable the team to succeed. On the other hand, leaders have to really influence, and that's all about managing people. So that was a key reflection and key learning for me. So I think it's all the more important to that we acquire the soft skill of like influencing people beyond the border. It's super critical to succeed with innovation. So that's one of the foundational thing that for all of us. As far as the failure part is concerned, again it's about two organizations coming together and co-innovating. Both of them are like big organizations. There were a lot of ego issues that we didn't really pay attention to that led to a lot of undercurrents. So we focused more on technology and proving the technology like superiority, as we were in the race, and we ignored the organizational aspect and we failed miserably. That was an important learning for us. Misha.
Thank you, Sairam. So I just continuing with that, I think there was one more question that only companies with R&D organizations encourage its employees to focus on innovation. How can people, other people who have innovative ideas in other companies, how can they reach the right set of people and proceed further with their idea? I think Sreelakshmi, you also covered it a little bit, saying if your patent, you can't think about it within the company, go find opportunities outside. So probably Sairam, if you can throw some color on that, along with how how we can weave through any cultural roadblocks that people have. Because there was one more question which is specifically for you, which said, although I practice a lot, I find it difficult to keep myself motivated to do something new. Sometimes I procrastinate. How do I maintain that habit and keep going for it?
Right.
And Madhurima, you can add as well.
There's no straightforward answer to tell you the truth. Okay. Let me take I see three parts of the question. Okay. In the interest of time, I'll make that brief. First thing is about hey, do I need to be in R&D to innovate? The answer is no. While R&D inherently provides an opportunity to really innovate in every walk of its life, in your professional life, there are other places, other functional areas where you could be a lot more effective in driving the change with your innovation. So as I said, innovation is all about change for better, change for good. So I talked about the social innovation platform that we provide through our foundation initiative. People are fabulous. We don't have rank and file on who innovates. We provide equal opportunity for every innovator, and they come up with a very interesting, non-technological innovation, but they use technology to solve the problem. And there are so many examples that I can talk about where people are so innovative and creative in making a difference in other people's life in the social setup through our foundation program. Fabulous, very impressive. The second question is all about hey, I made an attempt in the past many times and I'm not successful. I'm not really getting where I wanted to go. So this is perseverance is an important attribute of an innovator, right? So I think, don't give up. Okay, I think, you will soon hit a resonance point where where it'll basically trigger the aha moment. We don't know when that will come. I don't know how many of you really know that, that 97% of Silicon Valley startups fail. Do they give up? No, they don't. They again go back and and then try out new things the new way. And that's a mantra. I mean, there's a time for you to reflect on that, why you have not been able to get to your destination to draw the satisfaction that you need with this innovation or this journey of innovation. So do a reflection, do introspection. You will easily be able to identify where are you where are you making a mistake, right? And again, it comes by experience. There is no a cookbook or a training manual that can tell you these are the steps that you're going to take to really innovate. The second thing that I would suggest is basically look at others. I mean, I don't personally believe in role model, because role model is a good in a way to inspire, but it really caps where you can get at. So you should take the role model as a reference and not as a destination. So look at the role model and then see how they have really dealt with similar challenges, connect the dots. Misha?
Yeah. Okay, that's very useful advice. I was writing it down. Role model as a reference rather than a template. Okay, I don't want to miss out on one very important question, which is to the women panelists, which is how do you keep the motivation up to grow in your career, spend extra efforts to innovate? Women will generally take a step back, hesitate to come out of comfort zone. So how can you become more forthcoming, drive yourself? So Sreelakshmi, Madhurima, any of you?
I think that's a great question, right? And probably all of us, at least the women, have gone through it at one point or the other, right? That self-doubt creeps in, that dissonance between am I focusing too much on work and not focusing on my family, because women are the primary caregivers, right? I mean that's a generally accepted role that is there. So my my way of handling this is, right, whenever that thought comes in my mind, whenever I start feeling that guilt, as they say, whether I'm focusing one and not doing justice to others, take a step back, think about all the wonderful things that have happened because you have persevered, because you have worked, right? Whether it is making sure that your child goes to a better school, or making sure that you are able to you know not really be a role model in the limiting sense, but you're showing your children, right, that the role of a woman is not just in the kitchen or in the house. So in a way, what you are contributing to the society, what you're contributing to the business, what you're achieving, that can be motivation in those times when you feel these kind of thoughts come to your mind. I mean, that works for me. I sometimes just go and talk to I have two children. I just go and sometimes talk to them. You know what, today somebody in office said this to me and I felt very happy, and then they realize that uh, the woman is not just a mother, not just a wife, not just a sister, but she is somebody of her own and has her own aspirations. And most, in all most cases, you'll see they'll support you, right? So that acts as motivation. That is how I keep myself going. I did take a break once both my, like, every time the kids were born, so I did take a break, but that was my decision. I wanted to spend the formative years being there for them, and then once they were able to talk, I decided to go back to work. So at any point of time, if you think it is getting too much for you, it's okay to take a step back. That promotion can come a year later or a couple of years later. You might move horizontally instead of growing vertically, and that is okay, as long as you are happy, you are satisfied, you are learning, whatever gives you that personal gratification. Stopping and starting again is as good as just running. Do what works for you. So I have, you know those are some of the things I have implemented in my life. And I can say I've done reasonably well. Despite a lot of challenges that have come my way. So, and one good thing about this pandemic is that now that all the men folk are also at home, they can see how much work has to be done, right? And they are chipping in, right? I mean, they have no option. But so don't try to do everything on your own. Don't try to be like a superwoman. It's okay. The dishes can be dirty. The house can be dirty. Do what gives you satisfaction, happiness, because then you will be motivated to continue with it and not just drop at that point of time. So enlist all the help. Ask your in-laws to help. Ask your kids to help. Ask everybody at home to do their own bit, and then it's better that way. Yeah.
Thanks. Sreelakshmi, would you like to add?
Yeah, actually, like Madhurima was mentioning, there are so many blocking points, right? Some may have restrictions with travel, some may have restrictions with working extra hours when it is demanding in the project. But when it comes to innovation, I felt this can be done without much pressure. If it is not your main job, if it is you are doing it as a part of extra thing, then it can be done in your convenient time. You don't have to be in office. You don't need to travel. And this next thing is when you are growing up in your career, you will be becoming managers and all. Then you will be losing that satisfaction. Oh, I'm not doing some technical thing. Involving in this innovation activity will help to get that immense satisfaction. Coming out with ideas, doing prototype, and I felt using innovation, women can have brownie points in their career. It can be done. No need to go to office when you spend extra hours in office. So I felt that way.
I love your approach to this. Totally different. Okay,
And
so I will.
Misha, actually,
Yeah.
I want to ask a question to the audience, right? I mean, they should think about how, that one innovation they have done to figure out how to take office calls, how to do the cooking, how to make sure that the kids don't jump in while you're having a call, and pat yourselves on the back for that.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we'll add it to the questions that we're going to ask. Okay, so in the interest of time, I will take one more quick question and then we will summarize. So, Orca, I'll pick this for you, right? Do you think it is better to be a specialist or in a single technical area, or dive deeper, be a generalist and understand more technical areas? What approach would you recommend?
See, to innovate effectively, you need to know a state of art in a very particular area. So it's very hard to become specialist in so many different areas. So to innovate, you have to become specialist in one area. But then the first question becomes that which area? For that, you have to be a journalist. So you have to know, what is close to your heart. And for that, you need to have a general view of how things actually work in general. But then you have to dive deep. There is no way out. Otherwise, you would not get the state of art and you would not be able to effectively innovate. And when you dive deep as well, at least look at your, know about your neighbors. What I mean by that. For example, if I work in some processor, designing or say computer architecture, I might have a specialization in that. I should know my neighbors very well, which by that I know, operating system just sits on top of the processor. I should know pretty well about it. I should know about the compiler. May not be, super high level programming languages part of it. That's okay. But even when you are specialization, as I said, specialization is needed. But even when you are specializing, you need to be aware of, even if you're not doing specific research on it, you need to be aware of your neighbors, which is directly, interacting with that particular area that you are focusing on. So
thank you, Orca. Now I understand why in our computer engineering, the first year had everything from mechanics to physics to chemistry to workshop even. We did carpentry and welding also.
I enjoyed it.
Okay. Yes, Sairam, go ahead.
Yeah, it's T versus I. I mean, that's what popularly is known as. Whether you like, you can't just survive by just focusing on just one area in depth. You need to be a generalist as much as possible, but should have a deep focus on one area that you're really passionate about.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so let's do this. Let's do a quick rapid fire, one sentence key takeaway from each of the panelists, and then I'll summarize everything new that I've learned as well in this session. So Sreelakshmi first.
Follow the process. Success will come certain point of time.
Thank you. Madhurima.
Believe in yourself. Keep doing what you enjoy and thinking of new ways. You have all the freedom to experiment.
Thank you. Orca.
You have to be passionate about learning, and that will eventually lead to innovation. That's what I'll actually say.
Thank you. Sairam.
Focus on enriching the fundamentals. That's very important. That starts from thinking style. You have to be a critical thinker. You have to be a system thinker to see the big picture, and you got to be overall a lateral thinker to be a lot more creative, to drive out of the box thinking to make the impact.
Wow. Yeah, that's really good. So, if I want to put it, from everything that I've heard, like Sairam, you started off by saying that women are also born entrepreneurs, but I think that's for everyone, right? It's in us. It's the passion. It's the desire to do something. So, what I picked up from this wonderful 1 hour discussion is that um, find something new, find something that's useful, that has a purpose to the organization, that will help you make a big impact. But practice, continue to try and do something, keep the engine oiled and keep it moving. Even if it fails, it's okay. Pick up from there. Grab every opportunity that you get inside the organization, outside the organization, whatever, and don't hesitate. Inhibiting yourself is something that is your biggest enemy. That would be my one key takeaway that I'd put here. And also something that I love to tell people when they don't struggle alone. Make someone a part of your struggle. Seek help where needed. Like Madhurima mentioned, right? Don't if you have to stop, take rest, do that. But don't let that urge go away. If that passion, that desire in yourself goes away, then I think nobody can help us, right? And if I pick up from the professor on our panel, right? Please write down your idea, because when you write it down, you can't make excuses to yourself, right? Does it come together? Can you make pieces, the jigsaw puzzle work? So those are, in my own words, what I picked up. And the biggest one that I really loved was have a role model and keep them as a reference, not as a template. It's a great idea to get inspired from people and run with them. So with that, I think we can wind up this panel. Thank you so much, each one of you. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure the audience has loved it as well. Thank you, everybody, for your wonderful questions. It's always great to interact.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Honored to be on this. Thank you. Everyone.
Back to you, Neelam.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Misha. I think the stage was full, so I was not able to come back. Yeah, thanks,
You are
Misha.
back.
Yeah, I am back. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Misha, for moderating the session. It was a wonderful session, and I wanted to thank all the panelists and you also for having a wonderful discussion. And there were many points discussed which we were able to connect to. Means Madhurima discussed, Sreelakshmi discussed about the woman thing. Don't do everything yourself. Ask for the help. And there's so many other points. So there are so many key takeaways. So let's start with the questions first, Misha. Then maybe I'll iterate the 3 key takeaways. So there's a question for the audience. And as I said earlier, there will be some exciting prizes to win. So I request everyone to participate. And you can key in your messages in the chat. Okay, so the first question is, what are the key skills or attitude needed to innovate? So I'll give you 20 to 30 seconds and audience can put their responses. I think people have left for the lunch. Yeah, I'm not seeing that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The responses have started coming. I can see that. Okay. So there are multiple responses have come. So maybe Misha, you want to ask some of the question, or shall I take the other one?
I think go ahead, Neelam.
Okay. So the other question is, how does failure help in the process of innovation? That's the second question. How does failure helps in the process of innovation?
Oh, it's actually like a waterfall, all the answers. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think no answer is wrong. Everything is correct. People have taken a lot from this.
Yes, and the discussion was really interactive and very good, very engaging. So I really loved the discussion. Okay, so Misha, we will stop here. I think a lot of responses have come. So
Yeah.
we'll select top 2 or top 1 and we'll be giving the prizes. So
Sure.
yeah, if I say the 3 takeaways for me now means because there are so many learnings, so I don't know how to summarize those. So the 3 key takeaways which I can say is continue the innovation, come up with novel and useful ideas, make an impact. And there is nothing called a small or big idea. So all ideas are good. And what idea? Write that idea to get the more clarity from that. Because once you write the idea, then only you can think over it more. And the second key takeaway for me is anyone can innovate. And we all are innovators. As Sreelakshmi also said, that housewives means we are sitting at home now and innovating so many things. So that helps everyone. And the third key takeaway is don't be afraid of questions and failures. So when you are innovating, you will fail. You will have so many questions. So answer those and just continue, learn from those failures and continue with that, your learnings. So thanks a lot, Misha. It's again,
Thanks, Neelam.
Thanks for moderating the session.
Been an honor. Thanks,
Yeah.
everybody. Enjoy the day.
Yeah. So thank you, Misha.